Hi. Title of my story is It Ain't Necessarily So. Being the youngest of four boys taught me most about what I would learn and need to know about masculinity. I could say I collected the most vital data from my own man, but this is only partially true. My older brother Jerome was as much an influence as my own man, being 12 years older than me. Father left when I was 4. I remember the scene as though it was yesterday. It was myself and my 2 older brothers, Kurt and Mario, holding each other, crying as our father gathered his suitcase, his car keys, and walked down the long flight of steps from our second floor tenement. My first big lesson about masculinity was adult men don't stay. The second thing I remember about masculinity was you fight. One of the primaries in our household was how to survive. We were very poor, so everything you got, you fought for, literally fought for. My brothers taught me how. Being the youngest, of course I had to defend myself, and I have to admit, I was good at it. Violence was a staple of my diet. First fights, broken bottles, fist fights, knife fights. I could hit the back of the head with a large rock from halfway down the block, if given the opportunity and a clear path. My youth was fraught with negative examples of what that meant to be a man. One of the most powerful memories I have was at my first fight that almost killed a young man. I never knew I had the snap gene. I blacked out when he hit me and kept punching till he fell, hit the back of his head on the edge of the curb, steel plate in his head, and 4 days in jail for me cured me of violence. I was 15. Around a year after that, I was admitted to college, entered the next leg of my journey of discovery. Being a poor kid, I literally had no intellectual support for this process called college. So I was on my own. Thank goodness I did have basic tenets. Perseverance, that is. Already driven into this young man's thick skull, men work hard. My father taught me that. I remember digging the drainage system around the house and filling it with gravel when I was 10 with my 12-year-old brother. It took all summer. Even though I was underprepared to attend college, I just worked my ass off day and night. This was another big lesson about masculinity. I watched my older brother cheat on his wife. My father walked out on my mother. I was going to get it right. I was going to do it my way, which was the respectful way to be present with women, to honor them, be kind, and to love hard. I must give my mother credit for that one. Monday was her day off and our day together. We would bake. It was also the time I received my lessons on how to treat women. The way she held me while we stirred the mixing bowl together taught me how to be tender and caring. The way she would explain the recipes step by step taught me incredible listening skills. I attribute my professional choice of being a therapist to her and the way she talked to me. And at the end of the day, we would have our tea and cake, and she would hold me on her lap and tell me how much joy I brought to her life. My mother was a romantic at heart. From her, I learned how to be a good husband. The adult years were a magnificent, illustrative tapestry. Marriage, children, family, pets. I expanded in ways I never thought possible. I made a conscious choice that my son would learn the balance of feminine and masculine positive influences, which is what my wife and I did. We raised our son to be physically and emotionally strong, as is represented in his name. His Senegalese name is Jegan. It means strong-willed, determined one, and he lived up to every bit of that handle or moniker. As they say in African-American slang or lingo, that boy gave us a run for our money. He did well in school, followed all the rules, and was a joy to be with. I know for a fact that his view of masculinity is very different than mine. Because of his experience, we modeled a new frame for him to grow up with. Which brings me to the next leg of my journey, where I better understood the balance of masculinity between strength and softness, the importance of being supportive in your community and not being afraid to be emotional and vulnerable. This masculinity thing doesn't teach us a damn thing about aging, however. I watched my father age, but we never talked about it. So that part I'm figuring out on my own. My masculine values as a 71-year-old is what I have to share. In the form of insight, wisdom, knowledge, I agree, aging is not for the faint of heart, and there are no classes to teach you how to grow old gracefully. But when you get there, make yourself a promise. You will accept the process with grace and courage, allowing the young men and women who are seeking counsel to sit by the fire with you so that they could learn. This is how the tribe survives, and masculinity stays a true course from generation to generation. Thank you for listening.